How about we look around Sagittarius tonight? Pluto is up there in Sagittarius, somewhere.
Okay, there are a lot of cool objects to find in Sagittarius. You're going to be hard-pressed, though, to find Pluto. It's going to appear as a tiny little dot amongst all those stars.
Let's try anyway.
The easiest way to find Sagittarius for me is to find Scorpio. The body, claws, and tail are easy to make out. The starting point is the big red star Antares, the heart of the scorpion. You can't miss that star in the sky.
From there, we just follow the tail of Scorpio to the east, and it leads us straight to Sagittarius. The easiest way to find Sagittarius is to find the teapot. There!
Great! What shall we find first?
Pluto!
Should we break the news to Laika that Pluto is not named after an animated dog? This month, we will take a look at the constellation Sagittarius. In July, you will find Sagittarius rising in the east after sunset following Scorpio. Sagittarius is on the ecliptic, so you can see it in both the northern and southern hemispheres. It can be seen from anywhere in the southern hemisphere, but for you in the far northern hemisphere, above 55 degrees north, you will miss out as it will be below the horizon. When you look at Sagittarius, you are looking toward the very center of the Milky Way itself. Sagittarius will be great to view in the next several months, but this month is extra special because the dwarf planet Pluto is currently in Sagittarius and the spacecraft New Horizons will be making its flyby mid-month, the first spacecraft from Earth to fly by Pluto.
Sagittarius is one of the oldest constellations in the sky. It dates back to the Sumerian times. According to the ancient Greeks, Sagittarius is the archer. Some said it is a centaur, Chiron, a half-man, half-horse hybrid. But the constellation Centaurus represents the centaur Chiron. Sagittarius is actually associated with Crotus, a satyr. A satyr is a creature that is half-man, half-goat. Crotus is the son of the most famous satyr, Pan. Crotus invented archery and stands in the night sky today with his bow ready to fire at Scorpio. The Babylonians also had a story about Sagittarius. They said it was Nergal, a creature with two heads, one human and one panther, wings and multicolored legs. Today, many people see the constellation a bit different and connect the stars into the form of a teapot. The teapot is known as an asterism, meaning it is like a mini constellation inside a big constellation. The Big Dipper is an asterism inside Ursa Major, the Big Bear. As we told you, this month, the spaceship New Horizons will fly by the dwarf planet Pluto. Pluto also is tied to ancient mythology. Pluto was the god of the underworld. The Greeks called him Hades. The Romans called him Pluto. Pluto reigned over the dead. There were two lands in the underworld. The Elysian fields, where good people went, and everything was nice and pretty and peaceful. The bad people went to Tartarus. Everything was horrible. They suffered for all eternity. One of Pluto's moons is Charon. When you died, you have to cross the river Styx to get to the underworld. Charon was the ferry boat driver that would take you across. Of course, his services were not free. The dead person had to pay. That is why, in tradition, in ancient times, when someone died, you put the coins over their eyes or under their tongue. That way, they had the fare to pay Charon. What happened if you arrived broke? No dice! No ride across the river, folks. Sorry. Those people were destined to roam the earth for all eternity as ghosts in the land of the living.
Before we look at the deep space objects found in Sagittarius, let's say a few words about Pluto. The once ninth planet is now considered a dwarf planet. Why? Astronomers started to find more and more objects like Pluto that could have been called planets. The official International Astronomy Organization decided to put all these objects into a different category and called them dwarf planets. Almost planets, but not quite. There are 4 requirements to be a planet. 1, it must orbit the Sun. Pluto does orbit the Sun, but at a different angle than the other 8 planets. 2, it must have sufficient mass and gravity to have nearly round shape. Oh, Pluto qualifies there. 3, it must have cleared its neighborhood around its orbit. Pluto actually passes inside the orbit of Neptune and then back out again, so it fails on this criteria. And 4, it must not be a satellite. If an object meets all 4 criteria, it is a planet. Otherwise, it is something else, like a comet or asteroid or dwarf planet. One more note about Pluto is that it can be considered a double planet. Charon is locked in orbit with it around a central point, much like a dumbbell. They rotate together, so if you live on one side of Pluto, you would never see Charon, and if you lived on the other side, you would always see Charon. Now, let's get the scopes ready and explore Sagittarius. The easiest to find is M8, the Lagoon Nebula. You can see it with the naked eye. It is a diffuse or emission nebula, meaning it is the birthplace of new stars. It is located about 5,000 light-years away. Another diffuse nebula, or star-forming region, is M17, which is about 5,500 light-years away. M17 goes by many names, including the Swan Nebula, the Omega Nebula, the Horseshoe Nebula, and others. Another famous nebula in Sagittarius is M20, the Trifid Nebula. It is also about 5,000 light-years away and has a magnitude of around 6. The Trifid is a diffuse nebula, the lower red part, and a reflection nebula, the upper blue part. It is bright and colorful and well worth aiming your scope at. Sagittarius has several nice star clusters to find. M18 is an open cluster. It is 4,900 light-years away with a magnitude of 7.5. M21 is also an open cluster. It is 4,250 light-years away and has a magnitude of 6.5. M22 is a globular cluster. It is known as the Sagittarius cluster and is one of the brightest globular clusters in the night sky. M23 is another open cluster. It is only 2,150 light-years away and has a magnitude of 6.9. It contains about 140 stars. M24 is the Sagittarius star cloud. It is 600 light-years wide and about 10,000 light-years away. As you are looking into the heart of the Milky Way, the concentration of stars you see is incredible. Over 1,000 stars can be seen in one view. Inside M24, you can find an open cluster, NGC 6603. M25 is another open cluster. It is bright at magnitude 4.9 and lays 2,000 light-years away. M28 is a globular cluster. It is 18,300 light-years away with a magnitude of 6.9. M54 is a globular cluster. It is 87,400 light-years away and has a magnitude of 7.6. M55 is another globular cluster. It is 17,600 light-years away and has a magnitude of 6.3. M69 is yet another globular cluster. It is 29,700 light-years away and has a magnitude of 7.7. M69 is next to M70, also a globular cluster. The thing about these clusters is that they are near the galactic center of the Milky Way. Most clusters are found far from the center of the galaxy. M75 is a globular cluster found a long ways from here. Unlike M69 and M70, M75 is one of the most remote clusters at 67,500 light-years away. It is a magnitude of 8.6. Those are just the Messier objects in Sagittarius. There are other objects as well. There are 48 deep space objects in Sagittarius with a magnitude of 10 or less. We don't have time to tell you about each one, so consult your star map and happy hunting. As I mentioned before, when you look at Sagittarius, you are looking towards the center of the Milky Way. And what lies the very center? About 29,000 light years away? Probably a supermassive black hole.
Now let's see where the planets are for this month.
Mercury will come up just before the sun at the beginning of the month, so depending on when sunrise is in your location, you may see it or might not. After the first week of the month, Mercury will not be visible.
Venus is in Leo and visible right after sunset. On the first of the month, Venus and Jupiter will appear less than 2 degrees from each other. By the end of the month, Venus will be visible only if you live near the equator or the southern hemisphere.
Mars will not be visible this month.
Jupiter is in Leo and visible right after sunset. It will appear close to Venus on the first and gradually move further and further away. By the end of the month, Jupiter will not be visible unless you are near the equator or in the southern hemisphere.
Saturn is in Scorpio and visible all night until the early morning hours.
Uranus is in Pisces and visible just before midnight until sunrise.
Neptune is in Aquarius and visible all night long.
Full moon on July 2nd and July 31st. New moon is July 16th.
Just think, right up there, we could be looking at a supermassive black hole at the center of the galaxy.
Good thing we're far away from it and we're safe right here.
Actually, no one knows what will happen if you fall into one. Space and time are distorted. All laws of physics break down. There are tons of theories out there because the different laws of physics and quantum physics and Einstein's theories don't all come together. Maybe nothing will happen, or maybe you'll be transported into another universe, or another place and time, or another dimension. Then, of course, you could be zapped into nothingness.
I've got a great idea. Why don't you fly out and into it and get sucked in? Then report back and let us know. Heck, I'll even build you a spaceship for your journey. And I'll be good enough to make sandwiches for the trip.
Oh, how nice of you.
Yeah, I'm sweet and perfect and wonderful that way. Anything to help you on your way to the black hole. Until next time, everybody, happy stargazing! Check out our other episodes in Let's Explore Astronomy series at www.tedcookproductions.com/LEA.
You will find all kinds of cool astronomy topics there.